All right, lace them up sports. Let's go.
Let's go.
The LA Sports
Roundup Podcast.
Was there any doubt? Shohei Ohtani arrives in October with a 3-run home run. To beat the champ, you gotta knock him out. The Dodgers stand tall and win back-to-back titles.
Pulls back, three-pointer, bang! Luka Doncic nails the three. Timeout Rockets. Luka Magic is alive.
Is he in? Yes! Touchdown, Puka Nacua! Touchdown, LA!
Final seconds, Reeves. It'll count if it goes.
Oh, he puts it in! From half court at the buzzer! Under pressure, Donald got there in the air, intercepted by the Rams, and they may ride to the Super Bowl on that.
You see a guy with a Celtics jersey at Disneyland, I'm ready to kill him. Just because he's wearing a Garnett jersey, and I'm pissed.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the LA Sports Roundup Podcast. I am your host, Mike Andrade. I hope you guys enjoyed our brand new intro that I put together. That's going to be our official intro going forward for the LA Sports Roundup Podcast. Hope you guys enjoy as much as I did. And lots to get into today, guys. We have a lot on the docket. We're going to be going over everything the LA Lakers have been doing in free agency so far. Not only that, what the rotations are going to look like and possible moves going forward for the Lakers. Also, is Aaron Donald coming back to the Rams? Everything looks like it's going in motion in that way. Aaron Donald possibly coming back to the Rams. It certainly looks like it's going to happen. But then we're going to get into some Clipper news, and then we're also going to be talking a little bit of Dodgers. Last week, if you guys missed the episode, we recorded an episode with Sammy Baez of the Dodger Buzz. She hopped on here. We talked all things Dodgers. If you haven't heard last week's podcast, go ahead and check that out with Sammy Baez. It was a pretty good one. And yeah, guys, lots to get into today. Also, we're going to be getting into some Clipper news as well. Also, before we start today's podcast, I want to mention where you can find us on all of our social medias at Lace 'em Up Sports. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on X. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us where you're listening, where all the podcasts will be displayed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And again, guys, if you are a wrestling fan, if you are a WWE fan, make sure to catch our weekly Wrestling with Ryan and Mike podcast. I have my co-host Kike Hernandez, who does all things pro wrestling. We talk AEW, we talk WWE, we talk it all, guys. And so if you're a WWE fan, wrestling fan, this is the podcast for you. That is Wrestling with Ryan and Mike, and you can catch that on all of our social media platforms. Now, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, the big news was LeBron James informed the Lakers that he has decided to move on, and he was going to let the Lakers go on about their business without him because he has chosen to play his 24th, a record-setting 24th season in the NBA, not on the Lakers. He's going to play it on another team. That was a couple of weeks ago. He decided that, or at least he announced it, and we still don't know. As from the time I'm recording this right now, it's July 13th. It's a Monday evening. We don't know where he's going to be. Obviously, by the time you're listening to this, LeBron could have already made his decision, made it public. But as of right now, we still don't know where LeBron is going to go. But he made that decision a couple of weeks ago, and the Lakers did not waste any time whatsoever. Before that, they had agreed to terms with Austin Reeves, a 4-year contract, approximately $180 million. Not the max that quite possibly could have been at play if Austin Reeves really, really wanted to do that. I believe there was suitors for that. I think the Detroit Pistons were willing to give him close to a max contract, and Austin Reeves did get close to a max contract. He has settled for $180 million with the Lakers, but it's not a max contract, but it's still a very, very high number that the Lakers are going to be paying Austin Reeves going forward. But let's say it. This was priority number one for the Lakers right now, to lock down Austin Reeves with as close of a max contract as possible, with a 4 to 5 year contract. That was priority number one. And look, it wasn't giving LeBron James what he wanted. It wasn't giving in to any LeBron James's demands. It was locking in Austin Reeves to partner with Luka Doncic for the foreseeable future. And we have our backcourt. Austin is a guy that has proven himself every single year since we have gotten to know him, since he's been on the team. This is going to be, I believe, his 6th season with the Lakers now, so unbelievable to think about. But you know what? This is our backcourt of the future. And Austin is a guy that can handle the basketball. He scores, on all 3 levels, 3 points, in the perimeter, attacking the basket. And he plays on or off Luka Doncic. You don't really necessarily have to have them playing together at the same time. And you can trust Austin Reeves in clutch time moments. And that's really a huge thing in terms of that backcourt together, right? You don't have to necessarily play them together. You can start them, but it's going to be big in terms of clutch time moments, because teams are going to have to decide who they're really going to double team. Is it going to be Austin Reeves, or is it going to be Luka Doncic now? So that was priority number one for the Lakers, and the Lakers have their backcourt of the future now, and basically have their number 1 and number 2 guy locked up for the foreseeable future. And their number 3 guy, well, he's going to be locked up as well, because the Lakers wasted very little time getting this deal done to acquire the rights of Walker Kessler, the center of the Utah Jazz. We have traded for Walker Kessler, and we've given up a 2030 first round swap, a 2028 first round swap, 2033 unprotected first round pick, and a 2031 unprotected first round pick. And I know what you're saying. That's a lot of draft picks. And yeah, it is. But you're acquiring one of the best centers in the league and pairing him up as our number 3 guy to pair along Austin Reeves, to pair along Luka Doncic. He's our number 3 guy, and it's going to be a perfect fit for him coming onto the Lakers and fitting himself in that role as our defensive big, that anchor that the Lakers need, the defensive anchor where Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic don't necessarily have to be perfect on defense. Obviously, defense is something that they really, really need to work on if the Lakers are going to be successful going forward, because none of those guys, you wouldn't say that Luka Doncic or Austin Reeves are defensive minded guys. But it's going to help in the backcourt, because now we have an anchor in Walker Kessler, and he's going to really clean up a lot of those messes that the backcourt is going to leave at points. Not only that, but he is going to be producing a lot of rebounding. He's a lob threat, a rolling lob threat, and he's someone that doesn't require the offensive touch. He doesn't require the ball in his hands to necessarily get points. He's going to clean up on the defensive rebounds, and he's going to eat up any loose ends that Austin Reeves or Luka Doncic or anybody on this team is going to miss. And so it's going to be huge that Walker Kessler, we have our center of the future now, and it's something that Luka Doncic has asked for, playing with an elite center. And in this league, there's not a whole lot of elite centers in this league anymore, but you can consider Walker Kessler one of them. Losing the draft picks is somewhat a detriment to the Lakers, because draft picks, more than any time in the history of the NBA, in the history of the league, draft picks are considered so much of a valuable asset in terms of what teams can offer in terms of trades and flexibility. Having draft picks, and also just the simple fact that if you have draft picks and you select on these guys, you can build a core. Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look at the San Antonio Spurs. They're building their core off of selected draft picks, and so fitting into a culture is huge when you can just build upon it every single year. That's not to be forgotten about. But I feel like with the Lakers, yes, they did give up a lot in terms of assets for draft picks, but the Lakers in this league, we've seen it. You can acquire draft picks. Now it's going to be very hard. You're going to have to give up an asset back, but you can get back on track in terms of second round draft picks and having a little bit more collateral in that range. And that's exactly what they did when they have traded, presumably, what was going to be the backup center, DeAndre Ayton. They traded him to the Washington Wizards for forward Jaden Hardy, who averaged 12.6 points and 1.7 rebounds for Washington last season. But more importantly, he can shoot 44% from field goal percentage and 42% from the three-point range. But alongside Hardy, the Lakers are also getting back some draft capital in terms of draft picks. We're getting the 2032 and 2031 second-round picks from Washington. So that's going to make up in terms of what the Lakers have lost during this offseason. But the Lakers were far from done in terms of signing free agents, and it all happened so quickly. Onto the guards now. The Lakers have signed backup guard Colin Sexton. They have signed him to a 2-year, $19.2 million deal. So with that, he is going to be our backup point guard in terms of backing up Austin Reeves and sometimes backing up Luka Doncic. And that is not a bad backup to have whatsoever. Colin Sexton, he is a really, really nice addition, and he brings downhill scoring, he brings speed, he brings toughness, and he's going to be a guy that you could plug into the starting lineup at times when guys are hurt or out, whatever the case may be. He's going to be a reliable guard in terms of starting him at the point guard position from time to time during the regular season. Then they signed 3-and-D guy Quentin Grimes. Grimes, last season for the Philadelphia 76ers, averaged 13.4 points per game. And also he hit 45% from field goal range, 33% from three-point range, hit 84% from his free throws, gathered 3.6 rebounds a game, 3.3 assists per game. So where his real value is going to be on the perimeter defense for the Lakers, trying to lock up as much as possible one of the team's best shooters, and that's going to be Quentin Grimes' real goal for this season. Let's say if he can try and lock up the team's best scorer, I think that's going to go well for the Lakers if he can do so. But catch and shoot spacing, it's going to be critical for him as well. Transition scoring and his athleticism is going to carry the way for him making an impact on this team. And I think it's a really good signing. Now, he's not an all-star type player, but if he can really develop into one of the Lakers' best players in their core for right now, it's going to go a long way for this team and a long way in terms of the impact he's going to have over his career. And then you have a guy that is going to be replacing Rui Hachimura, who, man, Rui Hachimura signed with the LA Clippers, and I couldn't be any sadder about that. But a guy that's going to be replacing Rui Hachimura is going to be Sandro Mamukelashvili. If you just want to say Mamu, that's perfectly fine, and I feel like every Laker fan, everyone going forward for the most part, is going to say Mamu as well, just to shorten that last name. But he is a big wing. He can shoot. He can pass. He's a really versatile guy, so whether you want to start him at the 4 position or play him sometimes at the 5 when Kessler is out, it's going to be a really interesting dynamic in terms of his flexibility and his versatility on this team, and I think JJ Redick is really going to use him in a lot of different spots. But Sandro Mamu, he's going to be a very big difference maker on this team, and if he has a good season, it's going to go a long way for the Lakers this season. And then, just today, the Lakers have announced they have signed Zaire Williams on a 1-year, $3 million contract. He's a former number 10 overall pick, and the Lakers still think that he has some upside to him. He's still in his mid-20s. He's a 6'9 wing, athletic. He's always been a steady hand in terms of his three-point shooting. He's really always, in his 5-year NBA career so far, has for the most part, has shot in the early to mid 30s in terms of 3-point percentage, and so I'm not sure where exactly he's going to fit in the structure of the Lakers core and also the rotation. He's probably going to be an end of the bench type player to start the season, but if injuries start to happen, you could definitely see him in the starting lineup at points, and it's not a bad get if there is going to be injuries at some point in the season, plugging him in wherever you need him. Now, there's 2 guys here that could be very expendable for the Lakers. One is Jared Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, he's in the 3rd year of a 4-year, $48 million contract extension that he signed after the 2023 playoff run. And so Vanderbilt, look, in 2023 when he signed that original 4-year deal, he was basically a part of the starting lineup as the Lakers' key small forward. He was starting all throughout that playoff run, and the Lakers really looked at Jared Vanderbilt as a guy that they needed to lock up for the future. At that time, if you remember, he was causing havoc on guys like Steph Curry and John Morant. Him and Anthony Davis together just really harassing offenses around the NBA. And it looked like Jared Vanderbilt was going to be a key guy for the Lakers going forward for years to come. But then he got hurt the following season, and then he came back, but then got hurt again. I think he had 2 knee surgeries. He might have had a shoulder injury in between. And it just, when he was suffering through those injuries, he didn't even play during the 2024-25 season. I think coming back, he just wasn't the same player after those 2 seasons where he was hurt and he just didn't play. And he hadn't been the same player since. We've seen his ability in very small snippets, and some of it has been, look at just that he's not the same player anymore, and it's also that Coach JJ Redick has kept him almost at the end of the bench for the better part of 2 seasons. But to say it nicely, Jared Vanderbilt has not lived up to the contract he signed. And if you think about the money that he is still owed, $12 million this season, and I believe $12 million as he holds a player option going into next season, that is dead money that the Lakers have in Jared Vanderbilt, and they desperately need to get off of that contract in any way possible in terms of finding a trade. The problem with that is that Jared Vanderbilt's trade market is almost depleted. Now the Lakers have had their eyes on bringing in a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, former ex-Warrior, a guy that has had plenty of upside, is only still 23 years old, and is still considered very, very young, and could still have a lot of upside in terms of him producing in the NBA. He's an ex-Warrior. He just played last season with the Atlanta Hawks. The Lakers have their eye on bringing him in terms of fulfilling that starting power forward spot. But the Lakers are out of cap space. They can't directly sign him. So in order to get Jonathan Kuminga, the Lakers need to be able to create some cap space in terms of trading away dead money. And Jared Vanderbilt would be the perfect player in terms of slotting him into that sign-in trade with Kuminga to the Atlanta Hawks and acquiring Kuminga through that sign-in trade. Now, it's obviously going to take a lot more than, maybe not a whole lot more than Vanderbilt, but it's going to take at least a little bit more than Vanderbilt because of the money situation. The Lakers are out of cap space, so that's going to make it really, really difficult. But if they can somehow slot Jared Vanderbilt's contract into that sign-in trade to acquire Kuminga, I think that would be a tremendous coup for the Lakers in terms of getting off of Jared Vanderbilt's dead money and bringing in a guy that has a lot of upside in Jonathan Kuminga. Also, a guy that the Lakers, kind of need to separate themselves from, sever the ties from, is a guy that had a lot of upside when the Lakers selected him in the first round in 2024. That is Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht had so much potential in terms of his offensive prowess, his 3-point shooting prowess, and people were thinking this guy was going to be the next Klay Thompson for the Lakers. And if he was the next Klay Thompson, it was only in that one preseason game where he went off for like 40 points. And that's been it, because since the original trade where we offed him to Charlotte in order to bring in Mark Williams. It was Mark Williams. That was when we did the Luka Doncic trade, and then we traded away Anthony Davis, and then we made a trade to Charlotte, sending Dalton Knecht to Charlotte to bring in a center, Mark Williams. But then that got nixed because of Mark Williams. His physical came up, and the Lakers did not like what they saw in terms of his injury status and prior injuries, and the Lakers decided to not go through with the trade. And so Dalton Knecht, ever since he was brought back to the Lakers and that trade didn't go through, his confidence has been shot way down, and he has been nothing what the Lakers and Lakers fans thought he could be. And even last season was a dead year for Dalton Knecht. You think maybe he just needed to get over that initial shock of that trade. But no, last season he was barely in the rotation. He didn't even play himself when he did have minutes. He didn't impress the coaching staff enough for them to consider him into a legit role in the rotation. Now, if the Lakers can somehow get off of his contract as well and maybe bring in more draft assets in terms of just clearing up his money, getting some draft capital back, I think that would be great. Or if they wanted to slot him into the Kuminga sign-in trade, I think that would be excellent. Then you can keep a guy like Vanderbilt that could still play some good defense. You slot off Dalton Connect, and then there you go. You have Kuminga, you have Vando there to kind of clear out the end of the rotation. One last guy that the Lakers are kind of rumored to bring in is PJ Washington, but again, the Lakers don't have any cap room. They don't really have the assets to go forward. If they're going to bring in anybody, it would be a Jonathan Kuminga. So bringing in a PJ Washington type, although it would be great to fit him in at the end of the rotation. In terms of power forwards, I just can't see how they could bring in PJ Washington right now during the summer. It could be something that could be a possibility during the trade deadline or going forward into the season, but as for right now, I just don't see how they could bring in a guy like PJ Washington. Alright guys, let's shift things over into the other team in Los Angeles, because the Clippers have quietly become the biggest storylines of the NBA offseason, and not just because they're players they have added. The biggest headline surrounding the Clippers is the reported blockbuster trade that would send Kawhi Leonard back to the Toronto Raptors, the franchise where he won the 2019 NBA Championship and Finals MVP. It's a move that almost feels like it's a full circle moment. 7 years after bringing Toronto its only NBA title, Kawhi appears to be headed back north of the border. But there's a catch here, okay? So the trade really hasn't been made official by the NBA. You know, usually trades will kind of be announced 2 or 3 days later after it was reported by reporters like ESPN's Shams Charania and others like that. But the Clippers and the Raptors have reportedly agreed to a deal on June 30th centered around Kawhi Leonard, and the NBA essentially hit the pause button on it. The league informed Toronto that the transaction will remain on hold until ongoing investigations into the Clippers is completed. Now, as I've talked about a lot of times here on this podcast, it all stems from an investigation that began last September after reporting from journalist Pablo Torre alleged that Kawhi Leonard received $28 million in an endorsement deal through a company called Aspiration, an environmental financial company that has financial ties to Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. The allegation is that the endorsement wasn't a traditional marketing deal. It wasn't, but instead functioning as an additional compensation that allowed the Clippers to circumvent the NBA salary cap. The Clippers organization and owner Steve Ballmer have vehemently denied that any of these allegations are true. And Steve Ballmer has publicly stated that the organization did nothing wrong, saying that they merely introduced Leonard to Aspiration after signing a sponsorship deal with the company and had no involvement in negotiating Kawhi's endorsement contract. The franchise has fully cooperated with NBA's investigation and continues to maintain that no league rules were violated. Still, though, the league isn't taking any chances here, and according to reports, the Toronto Raptors were informed that if they finalized the trade before the investigation concludes, that they could potentially inherit some of the uncertainty or consequences depending on the NBA's findings. Because of that, Toronto has chosen to wait until NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and the league have finished their review before making the deal official. So, in essence, Kawhi Leonard has been traded back to the Toronto Raptors, but not quite officially yet. So also in this supposed trade, the Clippers would be getting back former All-Star Brandon Ingram. They'd be getting guard Grady Dick, multiple first-round picks, a future pick swap, and a second-rounder in a future draft. Well, look it. I'm sure the Clippers are used to getting dicked around, and they're certainly getting dicked around right now, and they're going to be getting dick at some point. It just hasn't been official yet that the Clippers are getting Grady Dick and Brandon Ingram and all those picks as well. But in all intents and purposes, the Kawhi Leonard era for the Clippers is officially done. If you think about it, Kawhi Leonard joined the Clippers back in 2019, and that was pretty much their answer for the Lakers getting LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And the Clippers got Kawhi Leonard. They had traded a mortgage and then some. Their kidneys, their arms, their legs, and their future baby grandchildren for Paul George to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it never worked out. It never worked out for the Clippers, In 2020, they went to the bubble. They fell apart. 2021, Kawhi got hurt. They went to the Western Conference Finals in 2021. But, just it didn't really pan out for them. All those years forward, they got Westbrook. They got James Harden. they could never really get past the first round, I believe. And so, look at the Clipper Curse. I had made a documentary on that. If you guys want to watch the Clipper Curse documentary, it's all in our archives on YouTube and Spotify. You can learn all about the Clippers Curse. And that Clipper Curse has followed them for years and years and years. And, they moved into the Intuit Dome. They said goodbye to Crypto.com Arena, Staples Center. And it still really hasn't changed their luck. And, Clipper fans, look at they're not necessarily tanking. They're not they are rebuilding, but they're not tanking. And so look at they still have a pretty good young core here. They got Brandon Ingram, they got Darius Garland, they have Benedict Mathurin, they have Rui Hachimura from the Lakers now, Kobe Saunders, and so they have a lot of guys on this team that are young and athletic. And look at if they want to be able to make some noise, maybe going into a play-in run, play-in tournament run, that's what the words I'm looking for, they could possibly do so. Grady Dick is a nice addition, and so the Clippers don't have a bum squad. They just, need to develop these guys, and maybe they can make the playoffs this year. But as far as the investigation is going to proceed, we don't know when it's going to finalize, and it should be soon, though. Adam Silver has said that they are wrapping things up in that regard, and we'll find out soon what kind of, sanctions will be had against Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, if any. All right, switching gears to the NFL and switching gears to the Rams. Aaron Donald, the future Hall of Famer, or one of the greatest defensive linemen in NFL history, has been rumored to make a comeback to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, nothing is official here, but Aaron Donald was spotted at the Rams training facility the other day in terms of just him getting a private one-to-one workout where he felt like if it felt like everything was pretty much on par with the way he wanted it to go, then things would be looking just so much more in the right direction for him to coming back to playing football for the Rams. And that's exactly what Aaron Donald told the Rams. He wanted to have a private workout and just see how he felt, just putting on the pads. And I feel like, look, they've already gotten to the point where he's already not just thinking about it, but he's already putting the wheels in motion in terms of him working out. It's just a matter of time now. Look, I know it's just one workout, but he's already doing this part. There's no way that he's not coming back out of retirement to play for the Rams. There's no way that's not happening. Where there is smoke, there is fire. And the fact that they have gotten to this step already, it's just a matter of time now where both sides are going to come to an agreement. And it's not about money. It's just about how comfortable does Aaron Donald feel about putting on the pads one more time for the season and finding the fire and the passion to get it done. The Super Bowl is in LA this year. The last time the Super Bowl was in LA, the Rams won the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium. There is not going to be another better opportunity for Aaron Donald to do this. If he does not do this right now, he is never going to come out of retirement. Plain and simple. If Aaron Donald does not choose to play football this season, it is never going to happen. Again, the Rams are not going to have a better depth of defensive players than they do right now. You're talking about the best defensive player in the game currently, Myles Garrett. We had just traded for him. He's on the roster. Okay, you have the reigning defending defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, on that defensive line. Okay? Then you have Trent McDuffie. You have Jalen Watson on the secondary. Then you have guys like Byron Young and Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, Nate Landman, the Landman, Omar Spates as linebackers. What more can you ask for? These guys are going to protect Aaron Donald in terms of Aaron Donald doesn't need to be the superstar of yesterday, okay? All he needs to be is Aaron Donald just creating a wreckage when he sees fit, okay? And that's all we need from him. He doesn't even need to play every single game. He doesn't even need to be out there every single snap. The rest of these guys are going to handle business, okay? Myles Garrett, he's going to be the anchor of this defense. All we need Aaron Donald to do is just be that closer of games. Getting that last second, that game-winning sack, because attention's going to be on Myles Garrett. Attention's going to be elsewhere, and if it is on Aaron Donald, then he's going to be protected by all these other guys like Landman and Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner. they're all going to have their moments. And I feel like right now, if Aaron Donald doesn't choose to play football, it's not going to happen. They're not going to have a better roster than what they have right now. And the opportunity to win a Super Bowl is not going to be better. And that's just on the defensive side. Look, we still have the reigning defending offensive MVP in Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum. Okay? You cannot get a better offensive output than what we have right now. All right? Jordan Whittington also. These guys are going to make a huge difference on the offensive side. And it's not, look at, in terms of just this team, it's not going to be a better fit for Aaron Donald any other time than now. That's all I got to say. All right, last but not least, the Dodgers are sending 5 players to the MLB All-Star Game, and they're going to be visiting President Donald Trump in the White House coming up very soon. And one particular Dodger, Kike Hernandez, had decided he is not going to join the team when they visit President Trump in the White House coming up on July 23rd. A quote from Kike Hernandez saying that it's going to be hard to be in 2 cities at the same time. If I was active, probably wouldn't have gone anyways. Him being not active, meaning that because he has been on the injured reserve mostly all season. He played 1 game dealing with offseason surgery, and then he came back and sprained his oblique. And so he's been out basically all season long. He hasn't been active. But Kike Hernandez hasn't been a guy that is necessarily going to be quiet on certain subjects and issues. Hernandez has expressed support for immigrants in Los Angeles, and through social media has been anti-ICE throughout the community in Los Angeles. Dodgers skipper Dave Roberts, he chimed in on Hernandez's choice not to visit the White House, and he said this: "I'm sure a lot of guys are going to participate and be there, and this is an individual choice," Roberts said, "but I do expect a lot of our guys to be there. This took a long time to get both sides together, and honestly, I've always said my company line, my personal line, is I hope that we get this invitation every year, because that's the goal. That's the goal, to win a championship, to get this invitation to the White House. And I'm not a politician. I'm doing something that teams have done for decades, and so that's where I stand, really. I'm a baseball coach. That's what I do." That's Roberts, definitely his opinion, and I think that's the right opinion to have. Look at whether you stand right, whether you stand left, and I've talked about this before, whether the Dodgers, it was right for them to go to accept an invitation to the White House. I've talked about this before on the podcast, and really my take is whether you stand left or right, really this is about sports, it's about tradition, and people hate Trump. A lot of people hate Trump, deservingly so. And that alters their view in terms of visiting the White House. And that's, if they choose not to do so, that's their opinion, that's their choice, and you got to respect it. If they do go and follow tradition, you got to respect it as well. The Dodgers have earned the right to go to the White House, and whether they choose to go or not, you got to support them in that, because they are the World Series champions. And people may say that's a cop-out answer. I really don't think so, because I really like to keep politics and sports separate. That's just my personal choice. I know a lot of people want to intermix the two, and that's their opinion as well. A lot of people have different varying opinions on the Dodgers, especially from back then when the Dodgers, had took over Chavez Ravine and basically kicked a lot of immigrants to the side in terms of building Dodger Stadium, and look, a lot of people can point to different things from the past to criticize the Dodgers and criticize baseball. That's all well and good, whatever, that's their opinion. Look, I just want to keep the baseball the baseball. Okay, if you want to go to the White House and celebrate your World Series championship win, you have more than a right to do so, because you are the champs. And so, you can't criticize Kike Hernandez for choosing not to go. That's his own personal right, and he's still beloved here in Los Angeles, and he's always going to be a beloved member of the Dodgers community, Dodgers roster, and people are going to love him forever for being a part of the back-to-back defending World Series champions. And so, that's just my opinion. You take it or leave it, or you look at, hey, if you disagree with me, you can always comment down below on all the comments on social media, on the social media pages, okay? So if you disagree with me, that's okay. Just write it down below. I won't get offended, I promise. But alright, guys, that's going to do it for today's podcast. I want to thank you guys again for your continuous support in listening to all of our podcasts, all of our content on Lace 'em Up Sports Media. And look, guys, I want to thank you guys again for coming in, joining us. All right, if you have any questions, you can write us at laceemuptakes@gmail.com. You can find us on all of our social medias, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find us on all of it, okay? So make sure to up our numbers on there, like, subscribe, do whatever it takes to follow us, and don't miss anything that we have coming up, because you're definitely going to want to keep in touch with what we have going on. And you know what? I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so until next time, guys, I'll see you. Have a good one.